when I was 12 years old. I got a job initially washing and waxing airplanes, and now they call it detailing, but they didn't call it that back in the early 70s. And I really was amazed that if I worked really hard and I did a good job, someone would actually pay me money. And I did that for many years. And ultimately, at the airport, I became affiliated with this company that owned a big hangar. They had a big helicopter dealership where they sold helicopters and they sold airplanes. And so I would go after school and on weekends. This was done in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
I'm 21 years old right now, and so I'd say my first connection to aviation began when I got my first orientation rides through Civil Air Patrol and the RedTail's youth flying program. Um, I'm not sure which happened first, but I was in both those programs around the same time. And from there, I was able to go to trade school for the last 2 years of high school. And I was able to get up to around 47 hours. Unfortunately, COVID hit, so I wasn't able to get my private pilot's license. But from there, I went on to the Air Force Academy, and I was picked up to become a glider pilot there. So I was an instructor in the TG-16 gliders that they have there. Um, Once I graduated, I got a pilot slot.
Well, I grew up next to Stewart Airport, and a story I tell a lot is how when I was younger, I would point at airplanes and tell my mom I want to be a plane driver and that I want to be a pilot even before I even knew what the word pilot was. So growing up, I've always just loved aviation. Not always going to get things the way you want. My whole life, I've been fortunate to get things straight away, but aviation, um, you have to work with it. It doesn't work with you, you work with it. So say the weather isn't nice. Say I want to go flying real badly, but the weather isn't perfect. I have to just accept that.
So after the Red Tails flying program, I went to Embry-Riddle and I got my degree in aeronautics from there. Connection to aviation was in high school. I went through the Red Tails aviation program, and then also I went through the BOCES program and got my private pilot's license through there. And then I pursued aviation in college and got my instrument rating, and I started working on my commercial license, but didn't complete it. And then I decided to pursue other factors, but I did complete my degree in aeronautics.
My connection to aviation is basically well, I'm both a military pilot in the Air National Guard flying C-17s, and I fly for Delta Airlines. That's my professional affiliation with aviation. On the other side of it, it's been my life's work and passion. Flying is a dream, and it's what I wanted to do since I was a little kid. So
But some advice I'd like to share is to just keep trying. Everything, life will push you down. You just have to stand back up. It's basic, but you just got to keep trying. And also to not compare yourself to others. You're going at the pace that you're going, and you're doing fine. You're doing great, and you got this.
A big way is attention to detail. So with aviation, you really have to pay attention to the small stuff when doing anything associated with a flight, from the or from the pre-check to the flight planning and just all the training that goes into it. You have to know all those small details and be able to apply them when it matters. And I would say with my current career, that applies because you have to be able to do the same with just looking through all the different factors that are associated with the calculations we do. It's important to pay attention to all the small inputs because that can have a bigger effect later on. So I'd say the attention to detail is really effective.
I think an important lesson aviation teaches is a weird balance between patience and having a personal level of professionalism balanced out with a team. I say that because nobody can do your job for you as a pilot. So, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have some severe problems. That said, depending on the type of airframe you fly in many airfields, it definitely is a team sport. To get one plane in the air, to get one sortie, to get one mission done, it takes a lot of different people. Um, and in the moments that you're not flying, you might have another job. So for the Red Tails program, we had those Mondays, we had those volunteering programs, we had the community service programs um, when we weren't flying. I mean, in the Air Force, of course, you're an officer, so you have your officer duties while you're not flying. Um, and so you have to balance those sides of your professional life.
I don't think I could do RedTails enough justice right now with what I have to say, but it's helped me greatly. It's been a crucial part in me becoming who I am, not in just the aviation aspect, but as a person. It's helped with multiple things such as leadership and just communication. And also an aviation aspect, they've given me like flight training, and growing up with like the ground has been incredibly helpful.
That aviation taught me was to correct mistakes as soon as you see them, or identify mistakes and be open with them. So if there's an error that's been made, it's better to bring that up and address it immediately so that it doesn't continue being an error, even if it was either your fault or just something that came up that maybe should have been noticed earlier and wasn't for whatever reason. It's important to go in and address that as soon as possible rather than try to potentially fix it on your own or push it down the line. Just go ahead and deal with it as soon as you can, even if it's more difficult at the time.
Overall, it's given me a sense of purpose. I feel like that's what the Lord wants me to do in my life, to see me in this career. My younger brother, Brian, he's also at the Air Force Academy right now. And although he doesn't want to fly aircraft or anything, aviation is still very much a part of his life too. My dad wanted to fly, so he went on and got his license. And so it's something unique to our family. Well, at least for us, something special for us.
The RedTail's flying program and aviation combined both contributed a lot to professionalism and professional development, especially earlier on, like prior to going into college or any sort of career field. They really teach you how to handle yourself in more professional situations, especially with flying and aviation. You have to be able to talk to all sorts of different people on the radio, whether that's different controllers or from different airspaces. And I think that carries over to general professionalism as a whole, because you have to be able to talk with different clients with different situations and just be able to address situations accurately and quickly. I think for aspiring pilots or people going into aviation, following a mentor or trying to get a mentor can really help, from training to just continuing development in the field. There were many different peers or third parties you could talk to and continue in the aviation field directly, whether that be the military side or the civilian side. It seems like there was many different contacts and what's the word I'm looking for? Networking. That networking early on with aviation really helps, because it is a small community in a lot of ways. So if you can make those contacts early on and follow a good mentor, it'll help you in your learning ability, but also it'll help with your career later on if you decide to continue pursuing it.
Aviation taught me to set a goal and make a plan to get there. Becoming a professional pilot's a challenging thing. There's very few people out there that have accomplished that by not working very hard towards it. So aviation's taught me to set a goal, make a plan to get there, to work very hard to get there in order to succeed. It's become my whole life. It's become my family's whole life. The reason I am where I am, the reason I own a home and have a wife and 2 children is because of the opportunities that aviation has afforded me. Becoming a professional pilot has, it's been my career choice. It's a career that does not pay poorly. And because of that, I've been able to feed my family, house my family. My life revolves around aviation. It's my job, and it's a job that I love to do. It may sound like a cliche, and it is a cliche to say that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And man, that couldn't be more true for me when it comes to aviation. Every now and again, just taking off and the sun's rising or setting and I'm flying over the clouds, and I genuinely think to myself, like, I cannot believe they're paying me to do this, because it's that awesome. So the path my life's taken has revolved around aviation, and it's afforded me the opportunities to see some really cool places. I've been all over the world. It's afforded me the opportunity to bring my family cool places, and to build a life with that income and with the opportunities it's given me. So yeah, aviation holds a dear place in my heart, and it's given me a lot, and I truly love it.
Simply positively. It has shaped me to being the person I am today. Everything I like think about, everything leads back to aviation for me. Everything comes back to at the end of the day, I want to be a pilot. And it's just such a big part of who I am.
Because these guys were perfectionists and they were really engineers at heart because they could fix anything. And they really scolded me when I cut corners and put me on a path. And I really credit them in those days to always do a high quality job and to plan out things before you actually do them, because I could have done a lot of damage physically to the airplanes.
I introduced my brother to it when he was in the senior year in high school. And then once I got of age, I started the program in the 9th grade. Took me on my intro flight with I think I flew with Mr. Siddiqui. Yeah. He was my first flight instructor. I flew with him. And then Mr. Frazier had put me onto it. I fell in love with it ever since. Since then, I've gotten the opportunity to get other scholarships from the RedTail program my 11th grade to do my solo, and I did that in around 10 hours. And then after that, I got more scholarships my senior year to get more hours before I got to Hampton. So that's pretty much my introduction to aviation, how I got introduced to it.
And when I got paid at the end of every week, I would plow the money back into flying lessons.
Yeah, so for younger people that are interested in aviation, or not even just in general, my biggest piece of advice I always tell the younger people is that, like I said earlier, you need to set a goal and make a plan, and set a goal high, whatever you dream of, to the highest ability. You have one life in order to try to get there. Do not waste it on anything lower than that. Make a solid plan to get there and follow that plan. Do what you can to try to achieve your dreams, because it's really all you have.
I soloed at 16, which is the minimum age, and then I got my license at 17. So I had a very different experience in high school than everyone else. When I look back, I just remember that it was all that hard work and the diligence and listening to these incredibly talented people, the mechanics and the pilots, who really took me under their wing and taught me responsibility, doing quality work, and then getting rewarded for it. I have to say that part of my life taught me more about my career than anything else that, including school or even college, prepared me for. So I owe a great debt to aviation.
Aviation became my life, literally. Like everything that I do has been some way connected to aviation. Whenever I go out, I meet people, I let them know what I'm interested in. I tell them that I go to Hampton University, that I study aviation. Immediately starting asking questions when I started. So it definitely takes up a lot, but I do love it. Even outside social events, when I'm talking with family, some of the things that I watch, I study aviation a lot. So it's definitely been my life, whether it's on the simulator, in the air, taking pictures, just aviation has definitely pretty much been my life since I started.
We became the number one part supplier at one of the largest turbine engine companies in the world, ultimately. So I really do owe it all to when I was younger and, just a middle-class kid growing up with zero direction. Aviation has served me in really, really good stead.
I think one of the main lessons that I had to learn myself was to go at my own pace. I know a lot of times when you're flying or flying with others or the other individuals that happen to be your friends, you might look over your shoulder a lot to see their progress. They might be ahead of you, behind you, catching up, and it might put a certain feeling in your when you're flying and whatnot to try and rush things to beat them or to be the best or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's really about your journey through aviation, and that's basically that. Everybody else has their own struggles. People are going to struggle in other areas than you are, but at the end of the day, it's still your journey. So just try not to look over your shoulder and just know that your path is your path.
Well, it's once you get involved in flying or aviation, you automatically change kind of your perspective on things because it's a very serious business. It can be a very dangerous business if you aren't paying attention and if you aren't following directions and if you aren't following the time-tested training that these pros have put together over many, many decades. And let's face it, flying is really cool. There's a reason why flying movies are always very popular on television because it's really a surreal experience. And I would, at minimum, have or allow a child to experience it and see if it's something that turns them on. Because we're not all scholars, we're not all athletes. I certainly wasn't, and I was just fortunate enough to have been immersed in something that requires a lot of responsibility. And you have to be a self-starter, obviously, because you gotta learn all this stuff, and you gotta think and study about this stuff when you're at home, and pick up the books or get on the internet and learn more and more and more, and how to be a better pilot, or a better mechanic, or a better technician. So I would at minimum expose your children to this environment because it's just so full of wonder, it's so full of excitement, and the coolness factor is off the charts.
So just starting from the beginning, that summer I got an opportunity to do my solo in the 11th grade. And around that time, I was told I was going to be soloing around like late August, somewhere around then, right? So still studying, doing my training, everything how it's supposed to be. I go to one of my flight lessons and my instructor tells me that I'm soloing a little bit sooner than I expected. So I'm studying, I'm preparing for it and whatnot. I take my written exam. That was definitely a little nerve-wracking, but we got it through. And then once it came to the flying part, which was that Friday, I took the written exam that Wednesday. I woke up early. I was very, very anxious. My mother was very, very anxious as well too. The night before, my parents were telling me they didn't want me to fly. They didn't think I was ready for it. It was a lot. It was definitely a lot for my family at that time. Just some context, I was 17, 16, so I'm not even driving yet. I'm not behind the wheel, and I'm going up for a solo flight. Like that's crazy. But at the end of the day, my mother drove me, or at the beginning of the day, my mother drove me around like 8, 9 o'clock to the airport. I got in with my flight instructor. We flew to the practice airport, and he got out of the plane. And once he got out of the plane, I was like, oh man, I'm by myself. I really I really have to do this. So I locked in, I said a couple prayers, said some other words, went down the runway, took off, landed my first time. And I was like, oh, I got this. This is light work. Brushed it off, brushed all the jitters off, finished everything, got out the plane. My mom was sitting there crying. She was like, that's my baby, that's my baby. And I'm looking back at the videos. She's so anxious just sitting there. She couldn't even watch me land my first time. But after she seen me come down, no bumping, no nothing, no bouncing. She just felt like all the troubles, all the anguish, it just all went away at the same time. So that's one of my favorite stories throughout my career so far.